Okay, so Frosty will kind of cover the work that he's been doing and at his association and the project-based learning. So if there's no questions or any other comments at this point, we'll just kind of move forward with the agenda, and I'll kick it over to Frosty, who will provide a quick update on educator externship and some of the awareness events we have ongoing.
Good morning, everyone. I think I can stand here and be heard clearly, so let us know if I'm not coming through. So one thing that I love coming down to Astoria for is to touch base again with Greg and Big River and Jared. These people have been great partners with us in the educator externship. So a little update, last year, North Coast did not participate in that. COVID kind of put a wrench into a lot of things for us with the externship, but we still ended up having around 65 teachers participate in that event. This year, we're looking forward. We have all of the old regions and a couple of new regions who participated with us in the past rejoining, and we were able to flex some things last year on the fly with COVID, but we have those plans already laid out, ready to go. So however it works, whether it's completely face-to-face, whether it's virtual and completely virtual like some regions last year, or whether it's a hybrid, we're ready to go with that. So we're really looking forward to getting some teachers signed up, and you can talk with Miranda if you're interested in registering, or you can hit me up at AGC also. A couple of other things that Aaron and I worked on over the fall. We had a Careers in Construction Month in October, and we had about, what, Aaron, 250, 260 students checking in on that one throughout the day. And then in November, we did National Apprenticeship Day, and we had about the same number of students, and those came from all over the state. So we're really excited to be able to get the word out about the great careers in construction and support industries through those two events. Those are both completely virtual. I think it was much easier to do those virtually than to load up a bus of students and take them somewhere for a half-day field trip. You know, if you've ever had to take students on a field trip, you know that's a real joyful thing to participate in. So I think everyone was happy that we were able to do that virtually. So I think that's the updates from last year, and looking forward to this year to do the same kind of events and expand on some of the things we've already done.
Thanks, Frosty. And I want to talk quickly about a communications campaign that the AGC board has just recently agreed to fund and move forward with. One of the challenges that the construction industry has is a misperception issue. Is that a lot of people look at the work and the contractors, and they either think it's not for them, or they have misconceptions about what it's like to work in the industry. And I think to a degree, the industry hasn't done a good enough job of communicating or taking that narrative and owning it itself. Additionally, one of the things that we haven't been able to do very well is take advantage of some of these digital marketing techniques that are very popular within other sectors. And so over the next year, we're going to combine those two and create a digital marketing campaign that's really targeted towards our future audience, so 16 to 26-year-olds. And so we've been working with a third-party marketing firm in Portland to help us develop this. We did about a year's work of exploration and discovery work to make sure that we were on the right track, that we had identified our target audiences and the corresponding personas, and that you know, the type of marketing techniques that we were seeking to implement would resonate with our target audience. And so we've just kind of kicked that off the start of this year. We're going through a Build Oregon rebranding phase at this point. If you're not familiar with Build Oregon, it's an online resource that includes everything from a website to social media platforms. And the whole goal of that online resource is to educate people about careers of construction and steer them towards a next step. So that could be aligned training in their area, pre-apprenticeship programs, construction programs to study at their high school, registered apprenticeship, etc. And then the real meat of this campaign is to take all the collateral that we developed, the creative, the photography, the video, and create the digital marketing advertisements to meet our target audience where they're at. So we know they're on their phone, we know they're on the internet, we know they're going to different websites. We will be placing ads, we'll be doing ad buying to specifically meet those individuals at their place, whether it's their social media or just internet search or keyword search. We're also going to be doing influencer campaigns, so partnering with micro influencers across the state of Oregon and Southwest Washington to help promote our brand. And so we just kicked this off, but we're excited about the opportunity and its ability to hopefully increase the amount of people that are considering a career in construction and ultimately take that next step towards training or employment in the industry. The other nice thing about this type of marketing technique is that we have real-time data that we can look at to see how well ads are doing. And so it gives us the flexibility and the nimbleness to quickly change or reallocate or resource money to different campaigns that are working better than others. So we'll be sure to share not only kind of the work that we're doing to create the collateral and the imaging, but also the data that's really important on the back end of this to see what's working and what's not working. Yeah, I think that's about it on that. The other thing we wanted to quickly touch base on is AGC has been convening what we call the Construction Workforce Coalition for, I want to say probably five or 6 years. And the coalition is a group of workforce stakeholders, and this includes everyone from contractors to subcontractors, high school staff, whether they're teachers or administrators, workforce investment boards, pre-apprenticeship programs, apprenticeship programs, anyone who kind of touches the continuum of construction training across the state. And I think up until COVID, we were really focused, the majority of participants were really coming from the Portland/Salem area. And I think one of the silver linings of COVID is that we've been able to really expand the reach of the Construction Coalition. And now we get representation from stakeholders across the state, which is encouraging for us because we've been able to really broaden the conversation, bring people into that conversation to share resources and best practices. But we wanted to highlight this as an opportunity to further engage with AGC and AGC members and other stakeholders across the state. I'm not sure that there's another meeting that occurs in Oregon that is able to bring together kind of the broad the broad representation of stakeholders in the region. So those meetings are held every other month. Currently, we're looking at April to plan our next one. We have a web page on our website which has more information about the coalition meeting, previous meeting minutes and resources and information can be found there as well. If you're interested in joining that, we can add you to the roster. Just contact myself or Frosty, and we'd be happy to answer any questions and then add you to that coalition. So those are the AGC updates. Before we transition to the next piece, are there any questions at this point? Just take a moment to see if anyone has any questions or comments. All right, so we'll move forward, and this is kind of hopefully the meat of this gathering will occur. So one of the key things through workforce development is making sure that we partner with industry and education and or training programs. And we know that the most effective training programs, most effective educational programs have good relationships with their local industry partners. And it's important to just for the effectiveness of the program. But now, as things have changed, it's also really a requirement in many educational settings. So there's a lot going on across the state. There's a lot going on here in North Coast. And so we're hoping to take a few minutes to talk about some ongoing projects that really highlight that connection to industry and education. And then we'd like to, after that, have an open discussion for everyone to kind of discuss ideas on how we can strengthen existing programs here and or create new programs or enhance existing programs that really capture this idea of connecting industry with education. And so to kick it off, we want to welcome Mary Jackson from Clatsop Community College, the regional CTE coordinator, to provide kind of an overview of in education speak, the work-based learning. And then that will kind of inform some additional things that we'll talk about. So Mary, if you're ready, I will kick it over to you.
I am. Can you give me the ability to share the screen? I see that you have Ryan Stanley's information up. So great, thank you.
What's that? Oh, okay. You should be able
Here
to
we
share.
go. Yep, I'm there. Thank you so much for inviting me to speak this morning. I am very excited to give you an update on some of the recent things that we're doing. Last time I spoke in front of everyone at this event, we were talking about our career technical education and our program of study opportunities that are really had just started to develop in 2017, 2018 and grow. And I think what I'm going to talk about today really is a sign of that continued growth. And so today we're going to be talking about the work-based learning Perkins Performance Measure. When Kristen Wilkin and I spoke with you in 2019, we talked about our programs. And at the time, those programs had a performance measure that was called Technical Skill Assessment. And what that really meant was that when we were measuring student success, we were looking at measuring it with either a canned test, meaning our students would participate in these great programs, and we would possibly utilize a test created by a national agency or a state agency, or we would create our own test to measure student skills. And with the creation of Perkins 5, we decided we wanted to review our performance measures and come up with something that really could be beneficial regarding students. And what Oregon decided on was work-based learning. So what does work-based learning mean? What the definition is from Oregon is that it's a structured learning in the workplace or a simulated environment that provides opportunities for sustained interactions with industry or community professionals that foster in-depth, firsthand experiences of the expectations and applications of knowledge and skills required in a given career field. Now, I'm excited about how this definition was created, because first of all, I think all of us here today recognize the importance of those CWE experiences, those actual placements of students into a workplace and what they can gain from it. But realistically, not every student that comes through all of our programs of study are going to be able to participate in a workplace setting. So by including a simulated environment, we're able to acknowledge all of the hard work that occurs in our program of study and all the collaborations that occur. Because all of you who've gone into a CTE classroom within our region, you've seen our classrooms and our labs, and you know that they're set up very similar to a workplace. So I'm really happy with the definition. So you may be asking yourself, what makes an experience count as work-based learning? Well, there's 4 criteria that the state of Oregon has highlighted that influence this. And that is, it's aligned with curriculum and instruction. It's a sustained interaction with industry, business, or community professionals. It's in flexible learning spaces. It's workplace or simulated in classroom in the lab. And there's an earning of credit or outcome verification. And so what this really means for us is we're actually seeing this, this already built into our program of study, specifically the sustained interaction. Many of you who are in the audience today have been involved in developing our program of study and advising committees. And you work with our teachers to make sure that they have their skills that are needed and that they're passing those skills on to our students. So what does this mean in regards to AGC members? Well, first and foremost, I want to just take a moment and thank all of you that are here. Just as I said a moment ago, you've been extremely instrumental in the creation of our advisory committees for our program of study. You're constantly working with our CTE teachers in the field, and this can be seen especially in our construction programs for Jewel, which is a new startup program in Seaside, and with the work at Warrenton as well. And those programs that don't necessarily focus completely on construction, there are some that have construction elements, and you're willing to give up your time and be present there too. So we greatly appreciate that. But I want to ask you 2 things today, because what I see growing in our region is we've grown these great programs. You've been involved, and we have a lot of school, community, and student buy-in, and I want to see that continue to grow. So I have 2 things I want to ask you. One is, can you support a teacher by helping with a project in their lab or classroom setting? And when Mr. Morrell was giving his opening remarks, he did say that, I heard him say that, you are working with teachers informally. So I want to ask you, will you continue to do that? And then third, can you continue to work on providing CWE experiences for advanced students who have a progress through our POS opportunities? Because I know that this has been a discussion, and I know we've been trying to ensure that that happens, but being able to provide those opportunities can be life-changing, and a student can enter into a field and learn the experience and the skills needed. Not only that, but the soft skills. So I want to let you know what we're currently doing in our region. We have the definition in work-based learning. It's been set by the state. And as a consortium, all of us have met, all of the consortium members, which are usually the superintendents or an appointed person, a principal or staff. We've gotten together, we have reviewed the definition, and we've begun to identify what work-based learning activities may exist already in our program of study. When this first came out, many people were very concerned that it was going to be an addition to what we're already doing. And what we have found out is that we've been doing these activities, but we haven't been capturing them or measuring them. And so we've been discussing with our schools how to do that. And then lastly, ODE has a work group that's reviewing the work-based learning guidebook, and Clatsop Community College will have 2 representatives on this committee to provide feedback. If you're interested in learning more about work-based learning, I have in this presentation, which I'd be happy to send out or share, this is the link that will take you to the Oregon Department of Education, where you can look up the work-based learning information. But I also want to acknowledge that we have Gabby Sloss in the audience today, and she's going to be speaking about pre-apprenticeship. And Gabby has really been leading the statewide work, and she's been extremely beneficial and helpful in helping lead our work here in on the North Coast region. And so if you have any questions, this is the information I wish to share today.
Great, thank you, Mary. Any questions at this point? I hope we can come back to some of the in a little bit, but I appreciate that. Any questions at this point? All right. So next up, Frosty is going to talk about the Asphalt Pavement Association of Oregon's project-based learning program.
Or if Gabby's ready to shoot one of you for your apprenticeship, since that she's kind of alluded. Either way, we can do that.
If I could, Oh.
Okay. Go ahead,
I'm
Gabby.
sorry. Frosty, did you want me to go or did you want to go?
Well, Mary mentioned you talking about pre-apprenticeship, so if you want to go ahead, that's a good segue.
Yeah, that would be great. Thanks. I do apologize. I have a bit of a time crunch on some things today. So if that's all right with you, I'll jump right in here real quick. So hi, everybody. I'm Gabby Sloss, as Mary shared, and I'm with the Oregon Department of Education. And I focus on work-based learning, but also apprenticeship. I liaison between the Higher Education Coordinating Commission's Office of Community Colleges and Workforce Development, along with the Bureau of Labor and Industries Apprenticeship and Training Division. If you are familiar, it's good to see some familiar names here in the audience. If you have other questions or want to know what's going on in the world of registered apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship, I see Daryl Spitzer, who's a CTE dean at Tillamook Bay, who's here, Kristen Wilkin, who's also a dean at Clatsop Community College, Joe Mock from St. Helens High School, who has a pre-apprenticeship program. But those names and many more, I apologize if I'm missing any contacts here that do have experience with registered apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship. So please use them as your experts and supports if you're interested in trying to see how to make connections and pathways. And Job Corps, yes, Katrina, sorry, my apologies. They're here, so you have a wealth of knowledge along with AGC to assist in continuing those conversations. I'm going to attempt to share my screen, and maybe if Ali, it looks like I am unable to do that, so I might need to get permission, but you might be asking yourselves, how does CTE and registered apprenticeship align, or how does that work? And they're actually very similar. They're very aligned in terms of standards and content, related instruction in terms of alignment and articulation, and that supplemental instruction, mastery of skills, support services, and also those work processes. And CTE, if you're not familiar, hopefully you are, if you're here in this meeting and having Mary and several others here in the room today, is that these are content and programs and instructional strategies based on business and industry skill sets and needs. And instruction incorporates standards-based academic content, technical skills, and workplace behaviors necessary for success in the careers of the 21st century. And so part of my work, along with several others here in the room today, along with the state, who's invested quite a few funds over the last several years with applying for federal funds, most notably starting with the Obama administration's American Apprenticeship Initiatives. There has been a influx of funding and activities around expanding and strengthening registered apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship in across the country. And Oregon has been a lucky beneficiary of that in several ways. One of those being expanding and looking at how existing career and technical education programs can be recognized and approved as pre-apprenticeship programs because of those alignment pieces that I was just mentioning before. So pre-apprenticeship, if you're not familiar, is really preparing participants for registered apprenticeship, whether they have basic safety, hand and power tools training, or need to brush up or be familiar even just with the trades themselves, pre-apprenticeship is a great way to get learners or participants engaged and ready for, here we go. Thank you so much, Ali. Hopefully everyone can see this. But really trying to get them ready to be successful once they complete their pre-apprenticeship program and apply and get into a registered apprenticeship program. It is unpaid, unlike youth apprenticeship or registered apprenticeship programs. It doesn't have to be unpaid, but it usually is. There are funds sometimes, depending on what type of pre-apprenticeship program, in terms of who's running that program. Those funds, there could be funds to help students or learners purchase tools, equipment, clothing, or even help offset some costs in attending the training. But usually pre-apprenticeship programs are not paid. And you do work site field trips or having guest speakers. There's not a lot of on-site training, but it is, again, it's trying to get those participants in that program familiar with registered apprenticeship, familiar with the occupations that are offered in those programs, and preparing them for the environment, everything from working on a work site to even just workplace culture. And there are some, and again, pre-apprenticeship is really trying to get participants ready to get into a registered apprenticeship program. So obtaining that GED or high school diploma, if they have a driver's license, or getting a driver's license, or maybe trying to get that not suspended anymore, really trying to get them prepared again and get their quote unquote house in order when they get into a registered apprenticeship program, along with doing some training or development around math and reading if needed. So there are several CTE programs of study that are pre-apprenticeship programs here in the state of Oregon. And there are also pre-apprenticeship programs across the state that are not CTE programs of study. Yes, they exist along the I-5 corridor, but a lot of our interest and support is trying to look at ways to have those programs exist in other areas of the state, because we know the value that they add and how they support potential learners and apprentices that we desperately need in the trades. So that's all I wanted to share today and was asked to share today, but I'm here to answer questions. In addition to, I know that there might be some questions around how to get youth able to work on site that are under the age of 18. So happy to answer questions there. But thank you for having me, and look forward to the discussion later on.
Thanks, Gabby. For those on the call, if you're not talking, could you please mute your phones? We're getting your phones, Jared, if you can mute your phone.
Yes.
All right, Gabby, thank you so much for that information. I want to give a quick shout out to all the work that's being done around pre-apprenticeship around the state. Then I would say an explosion of pre-apprenticeship programs at all levels, really. At the high school level, community college level, as Frosty's been working on one, and even in community organizations. And we've seen these pop up in Southern Oregon, Central Oregon, up and down the I-5 corridor. And it's really great to see additional resources and attention being used to develop these programs, which I think are great opportunities to segue young people not only into registered apprenticeship, but even entry-level employment within the industry. And so I believe Joe Mock is on the phone or on the call. Joe has a pre-apprenticeship program at St. Helens High School. You believe you've had one for quite a while. And we were wondering if you could just kind of talk a little bit about your pre-apprenticeship program, how it works and how it benefits the students that you work with. You're muted, Joe.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
I'm a licensed contractor, and several years ago, I hired some of my own students to work on a job site after teaching them for 4 years. And I thought it was going to be a great experience, having taught them everything and then getting them out on the job site. And instead, I became very depressed about the actual real world work skills that I had given them. And so it created a new generation. We started at that point, we started remodeling homes instead. And up to that point, we'd been just doing training, building a wall, setting it up, building tiny houses, whatever. And we'd got a lot of recognition. And so I thought things were going all right. But once I got to the job site and said, all right, we're going to tear out this window and put in a new one, things all broke down. And so I realized that the problem solving skills that I was giving students were not really up to par. And so what we started doing was buying foreclosed homes. And then instead of building a new home where students were only given rote situations and everything worked out correctly, what we did is we bought a foreclosed home that or a bank auction or whatever that had damage to the building. And so because of that, we didn't have to do a full scale approach. We could say, all right, this particular project just needed part of the siding redone. It had leaks in this part, or we wanted to move some rooms around. And so what happened is we were able to get a revitalization grant with enough funds to purchase our first house, and the tools and a trailer and a school bus, all used, obviously, the school bus and the trailer and stuff. But I got my CDL and I'm able to drive students with a school bus towing a trailer to the job site or a tractor or a backhoe, depending on the situation. And we get to the job site, we lay out the day's work basically. We've had a lot of companies jump on board helping out with the safety gear. And so that's been pretty cool to have all really good safety. And a few years ago, you might remember we got scaffolding donated for one of our projects when we redid a roof. But to be able to have students actually engage in everything, every part of the problem, from buying the house through the whole construction process to putting it back on the market, it's just extreme. I mean, all the students that come out of there, out of this program, I think I was talking with one of my admin, and I realized that I could go through a list of just the ones I knew of on my hands of just in the last 4 years, 10 of those kids that already own their own homes and are renovating them. And I look at that and I say, they're so far ahead from the general public of high school students that are trying to go on to college and learn something applicable. And here these students already own their own homes and are fixing them up so they can flip them later in life. So it's been an incredible opportunity. Several have gone into the apprenticeships, actual apprenticeships. Ours is a pre-apprenticeship, but several have gone on to the actual apprenticeships. I just had a student texted me last week, actually. He just got into the electrical and he's super pumped about it and wanted to thank me for everything. And so anyway, it's amazing to see the actual benefit in these type of programs. That's all.
Thanks, Joe. How long has your pre-apprenticeship program been around?
I've been teaching at St. Helens for 10 years, and probably the first 4 or 5 we just did tiny houses. So I think if we would have been doing it this year, it would have been our 5th year. So 4, I guess.
And it's registered through BOLI, right? It's a certified pre-apprenticeship program through BOLI.
That is correct. And the funds that we get from selling the house go back into the program again so that we can buy another house And then some of the funds actually go to the students themselves. So we buy them a full kit of tools on their way out. So they get a set of drills, sawzall, circular saw, tool belt, level, speed square, all the basics, so they can start, whatever company they want with.
And then one last follow-up question. So could you talk a little bit about the process of that you had to go through with BOLI to get it certified? Like if you were going to advise a new school to maybe look into a pre-apprenticeship program, what do they need to be thinking about? What do they need to look to set up to kind of go through that process?
Yeah, Miranda and Gabby were just basically my go-to people in that through that process, if I remember right. But it was actually really streamlined. I didn't have any problems. I basically said, "Hey, this is what I want to do," and they said that sounds great. Let's do it. And so there was some paperwork involved, and had to sit before some boards and stuff like that. But it was really they were excited that this was real world workforce and getting students out on the job site. I think we're one of the only schools I know of that actually do dynamite blasting. We're registered to we bought it. Our last house anyway was had a rock foundation, and so we wanted to add an addition, an extra bathroom in there. So we ordered some supplies, drilling holes and dropping shots in and blowing rock. And I was thinking it's just an incredible opportunity for those kids driving excavators, driving tractors, and it's pretty cool. So anyway, sorry to side tangent, I know. But to start the process, it really was just filling out some paperwork and jumping through some hoops that were already completed with our setup. It just was filling out the paperwork, really.
And Aaron, I can maybe answer that too, is if someone's interested or would like to start talking about setting up some programs, obviously you can reach out to me. You can also reach out to the General Apprenticeship and Training Division's email, and they can set you up. Application documents can be found on BOLI's Apprenticeship and Training Division website under pre-apprenticeship. And there are some pieces like Joe talked about in terms of some of the paperwork, maybe getting some support or assistance from ATD, the Apprenticeship Training Division, or also just your local partners and bringing them together to fill out that paperwork. So please feel free to reach out to myself and or the Apprenticeship and Training Division to get that process started.
Thanks, Gabby and Joe. Any other questions around pre-apprenticeship? Well, we have Gabby and Joe here.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
So the pre-apprenticeship program sounds really interesting and very useful. I am a little worried though about that, teeing up everybody to only participate in registered training programs or apprenticeship programs, which are really non-existent in coastal and rural communities in Oregon. It's really more of a Willamette Valley type of thing. For example, on the coast, it's very rare, other than in electrical and plumbing, it's very rare to find a union contractor. Yeah, and I know in the valley, there's even some open shop apprenticeship programs, but we just don't have good access to those on the coast. So our apprenticeship here is informal. It's not something that's registered with BOLI. It's on the job learning, entry level positions, learning on the job. It's still happening, but it's not something that's formally recognized from the state. So I want to make sure that everybody here is recognizing that and maybe looking for opportunities to expand both union and open shop apprenticeship programs to the outlying areas of Oregon so that more contractors can participate from those. But at the same time, make sure we're not forcing that to happen. You see some of the proposed legislation right now in the state that would force that on contractors who don't have access to that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
I can
Yeah.
speak to that just a little bit. My students, I would say almost 50-50 go into the regular trades and not into the union. So there's also, it just depends on what the student's interest is, but we're in St. Helens specifically, and we don't have, I mean, it's an 1.5-hour drive to get to the PNCI if they want to involve that. And so typically a lot of them just go straight into the workforce, but I completely agree. I think that's a very good point that we don't want to limit our students to forcing them to go into a union shop for any reason.
And to Joe's point, and I appreciate that comment because that's something that I can incorporate into my language as well, is that pre-apprenticeship is not exclusive, even though I know that there probably are feelings that it should be exclusive just to registered apprenticeship, and it's not exclusive just to union programs. That is not what I know that the Bureau of Labor and Industry want to convey. That's not to the message, along with ODE, in that it's not just for CTE programs of study, and it's not just for those students in those programs. We're trying to create pathways for all learners in all regions in the state. And so we are definitely looking for ways to bring these opportunities to your region, and are open and wanting to learn more about how to make that happen. So please don't take this message or these conversations as it's only for union, non-union, or those, or just registered apprenticeship as well. So point taken, and thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's just important that people realize that there are informal workforce development efforts happening throughout the state, and as long as that's recognized and embraced, then I think we're okay.
I had a question. I guess it's, over the last couple of years being involved in the teacher externship program stuff, I can't help but feel like the underlying tone of a lot of this stuff is reaching out to kids that are struggling in school, or trying to help them graduate school and things like that. And I guess what I'm wondering is how the message can get tweaked a little bit to recognizing, scholar students and student athletes and things like that. But I never hear that get brought up in any of the stuff that's getting talked about. It's always, trying to help the kids that aren't, that are struggling with stuff. And so it's just, that's the one thing about this whole deal over the last couple of years, is that, the message, especially from what we hear with the teachers that come and visit us, is that they're trying to place, I don't know, it's like they're missing a complete segment of their population at the school. And I guess I'm just wondering how the message could get tweaked a little bit or whatever, to try to reach out to some of those kids that I don't feel like get targeted in this program to the extent that they could.
Yeah, we want the superstars as much as those who really don't have a direction yet.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, there's a lot of schools, when you reach out to them, they line up smokers row, for lack of a better term, as the kids that should be going into the programs. And it's super frustrating for us, because it's, I mean, I didn't get straight A's, but I got B's and A's and played sports and worked and did all that stuff through school. And I mean, Phil was, honor roll kid. I mean, there's just a lot of the kids that come out of the school that we hire, they got good grades, they played sports, they had team-oriented skills coming out of school. They might not have trade skills, but they've, been part of teams and teamwork and things like that, which allows them a better path to success. And so I guess I just feel like some of the message in this, reaching out to those kids that want to be part of something bigger than themselves is important. So
I can hopefully speak to that real quick. I think what happens over time, like when I first started at St. Helens, it was a pretty low performing program. It was a half-time position. and we didn't have a single stick of wood in the shop, and we had like 2 working machines. And it took some time to create an eliteness. And now we have a pre-apprenticeship program that is an elite program where students have to apply to get in. And so I have 16 positions to take out to the job site, and I only take I only take 16, and I have typically around 50 students apply. And so that gives me the opportunity to give that eliteness. And so when I first started, it was really rough, but now over time, I have valedictorians pretty much nonstop through the program. And I don't know if you've seen Mr. Chris Higginbottom's program out at Forest Grove, but his whole crew that goes out to the construction site, they're all valedictorians. It's just ridiculous. Where it's become this elite, you know, you get these high-end tools given to you, you get these job sites, it comes with a status. If you are in that school and you're part of that program, everybody looks up to you. And so I think it takes time. When you first start, it's kind of the podunk, and when counselors don't understand what your program is or what the possibilities are. But now that we've been in this for a while, it's really cool to see students are even in middle school, they're deciding, hey, I want to get into that program so I can get onto the job site and I can get tools. And specifically at our school, with this whole COVID thing, again, one of those silver linings is our school has decided that we're going to start a GED track for those students who are gung-ho and they know they want to do workforce only. We're going to have a GED track where they can just do hands-on classes and the bare minimum so they can get started in the workforce immediately, where we don't have to go down the track of college only sort of thing. So I think there are changes in the industry, but some of these are going to take some more time.
Well, and I think with that, piggybacking on Joe, this is Josh at Warrenton High School. Your teachers and also your counselors are the key cog there as students are trying to figure out what classes to take, and especially early on, getting the counselors to realize, you know, as kids are trying to choose between maybe your quote unquote AP classes or upper, you know, N classes and your CTE classes, really truly getting the understanding of what those classes are about and how they can, you know, help them attain whatever goals they want in life. And so having those being, you know, as much an advertiser as possible and getting those people that those students are talking to understand exactly what those programs are about is huge.
And just piggybacking off what Josh said, we actually as a consortia are constantly working on messaging and inequity in CTE, making sure that all students are aware of opportunities and trying to increase participation with all students and educating parents and community members as well. We have an opportunity as a consortia that will be sending counselors and teachers to a training specifically on increasing equity.
All right. Thanks, everyone. So great questions and comments. I want to move us along on the agenda and then get back to this discussion. We have a couple more folks to speak. So Frosty, do you want to?
I was thinking maybe Ryan could go and then I'll just kind of wrap everything
Okay.
up with the rest of the initiatives that we're doing.
Ryan, does that work with you?
Sounds good. Do you want me to share my screen or do you have those slides available?
We have them.
Great.
Can you see this?
And I just have hi everyone, my name is Ryan Stanley from Clatsop Community College with the Clatsop Works internship program. I just have a couple of slides I wanted to share with you all and give you a brief summary of what Clatsop Works is all about. Go to the next slide there, please. So Clatsop Works is a paid internship program here in Clatsop County. We have students 16 and over participating from the 5 Clatsop County school districts as well as Clatsop Community College. The school districts, the college, and the ESD are our main educational partners and in fact fund the program as well, which is very exciting. We have a lot of support and buy-in from the schools and helping us connect with students which then gives us the chance to connect them with local businesses, including contractors and local construction companies. We've had a few local companies in the last few years participate, including Rickenbach Construction, Heligzo, and Coastal Restoration that came on board last year. And we're always looking for more as there's more students interested in this field as well. The program itself is 8 to 10 weeks in the summer, and we're actually accepting applications as of this Monday, both from employers and students for our summer 2021 program. And positions will start in June, anywhere between the first and beginning and end of the month, depending on the employer and the applicant. One of the highlights of Clatsop Works is that each student has a mentor assigned at their host site, the main person to go to for guidance, to get ask questions, make sure that their experience has been fulfilling, and also that they're meeting their goals, and which is in fact a really important part of developing an internship program at your organization or business, having measurable goals for the students to make sure that they're on track and come away from the experience with solid things that they said they've accomplished or learned during their time. Clatsop Works has had partner organizations in healthcare, tourism, a lot of local government, including Clatsop County, City of Seaside, forestry products, law enforcement, and a bunch of other career fields here in the county. We're trying to give students a wide variety of experiences in Clatsop County that are sometimes hard to know are available as a student. And so we've had a pretty equal balance of both high school and community college students participate, especially last year with the onset of COVID-19. And although it was a challenging year, we still had 18 interns at 12 distinct host sites throughout the county in various sectors. So we were super excited about that and look forward to the summer, as well as hopefully a few more places will be opening up and providing more opportunities for students as well. One other really important part of our program is the professional development workshop series. We cover various topics on personal finance, goal setting, diversity and cultural competence, workplace safety, resume and cover letter writing, a bunch of different topics in order to really set up the students for success, and also to create more work-ready students in the community when they do finish high school or community college. Aaron, if you could go to the next slide, please. And so as far as what's in it for businesses and organizations that are hosting interns, I think one of the biggest things that our program does is it helps businesses promote local career opportunities and to close the skill gap that I talked about a little bit. One of the things that interns have the opportunity over the 10-week period to learn skills that they can later apply either at your business or other local, and hopefully staying in the community and retaining local talent here in Clatsop County. We've had several interns over the last 3 years that have continued working for their host site after the internship period has ended into the fall, winter, even on a year-round basis, part-time or full-time. And so it's a great way as a business to connect with students and as you're training them, you're potentially training a future employee. It also creates more visibility for your business, and we really try to highlight our business partnerships in our marketing, and we couldn't do this without our local businesses, and we have so much investment from businesses here and our students and in the program that it's really been because of that it's been such a huge success. One thing I'll kind of finish with quickly is people ask well, what can I have an intern do for 8 to 10 weeks in the summer? And that's a lot to take on for having a student for a short time. But one of the really nice things interns have done in the past is take on projects that may have been on your list for quite a while that you just haven't had the bandwidth for or had staff to take on. We've had interns, for example, at Clatsop County or Seaside Chamber, for example, that have taken on website redesign and social media outreach, which could potentially be something that would also benefit construction and local contracting companies to get more visibility in the community in different ways that haven't had a chance to do previously. Interns often, I would say almost always, bring fresh perspective and can really help you move forward these new creative and advanced projects that have kind of been waiting. You can go to the next slide, please. There are just the final slide here with my contact info. As I mentioned before, we just started accepting applications on Monday. It's at clatsoapworks.com. It's a really simple application for host employers. We essentially want to know that you've got a mentor for potential interns, a space for them, or the opportunity to host an intern. And the most important piece is that project-based internship outline. So the more you can engage the intern in the day-to-day workings of your organization in all aspects, the more effective and fulfilling it is both for the host employer and the student. So I see a question from Jen Munson. Let's see. Yes, so her question was part-time versus full-time. In the first few years of the program, it was a solely full-time program, 8 to 10 weeks over the summer. And we ask our employers to pay at least minimum wage, and that varies depending on employer. This year, we realized that with COVID-19, it can be more difficult for more organizations to take on new staff and new interns. And so we are welcoming part-time internship employers as well. Part-time meaning minimum 20 hours a week for that 8 to 10 week period, as well as full-time. And you can, if you do decide to apply or take a look at the application, you can indicate that you have full, part-time, or both available for the summer. Anyone else have any other questions? Okay, well, thank you for your time. Thanks for the invitation. Please reach out if you have any questions about the program or are interested in hosting an intern.
Hey, Ryan, we do have one question. Do you hear us?
Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan, this is Greg of Bergerson Construction. Do you have the ability to accept late applicants? This year is not a good example, but what I noticed a couple of years ago was that there were students that came to me in June saying, oh, hey, I just started thinking about a summer job. Do you have any opportunities? Because they were so involved in school activities and sports especially, that they hadn't even really thought ahead about the summer. And they didn't apply in the spring to the Classic Works program.
Great question. Yeah, so this year, so as far as the application schedule, there's certainly room for change depending on how things go in the next few months here, as everything has in the last year. On the employer side, we're accepting applications until June 1st. As it stands now, we're accepting student applications until mid-April, but I wouldn't turn anyone away if they do decide to apply after that time. Leading up until early June, because we suspect that we will have businesses coming on board through the months of April, May, and early June as well. So, hopefully we'll have even more opportunities to provide students with. The one thing I would mention though is that students that do apply early, if possible, will be screening applications as they come in. And as of mid-April, we'll start sending those out to the employers that have already applied, and then after that on a rolling basis. So I definitely encourage students to apply by the April 16th deadline, but I would just have them reach out to me if they still wanted to apply after that. And we'll keep everyone updated, both employers and the school districts, on whether that deadline gets extended on a formal basis as well.
How do you let high school students know about this program?
Great question. So especially this year, we're really relying even more on our connections with counselors at the local schools, with other programs that meet with the students. For example, the Upward Bound program that has representatives from the college at all the local high schools. Social media is part of our outreach efforts as well. And also we're doing some workshops and presentations via Zoom at this point, but with the distinct school districts over the next couple of weeks here to walk them through the application, show them what it takes to apply, and then give them a timeline of what the program will look like this spring and summer. The application on the student side is relatively simple as well. We do ask for a resume. In the past, we've done some resume workshops, and we provide some resources on our website about resume development. But then other than that, we really want to know what skills they have at this point, what they're interested in learning, and what they hope to contribute at a host site. And one big question we're asking this year as well is, how have you adapted to life during COVID, and regarding school or work or other aspects of your life? So really right now, it's been a lot of, like many of us, a lot of virtual calls, and not ideal, but it's what we've got right now. But trying to connect as much as possible with classes and individuals as well. Let's see if another question. Did the interns interview with host organizations, or are they placed by the program? Thanks for the question, Laura. As Miranda noted, they interview directly with the host organization. So starting really as soon as applications come in, I start to screen them and determine which organizations would be the best fit for an intern. I'll then provide our host employers with online access to our applicant management system, and they can directly look at applicant information and contact applicants to interview them directly. So I should have been more clear about this before. So our interns actually become employees of the host employer. They go through the onboarding and initial employment paperwork and everything like that.
All right, any other questions or comments for Ryan? Appreciate your time, Ryan. It's great to see this program continue to evolve and grow, and hopefully we can get more AGC members a part of it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Frosty?
Okay, so I'm thinking about this from a couple of different angles to wrap all of this up. As a former high school, college, and career counselor, I know that missing link for many of you is the parent outreach. Parents think that their students must go to college to have a lucrative career. And that is something that we are working towards dispelling that myth, because we all know, those of us in the industry, all know that that is not the only option. And in fact, many students don't want to take that route. So what do we do about that? How do we make more awareness? We're working on something through Willamette ESD to make more parent awareness, so that they kind of understand the difference between earn while you learn or going into debt. So some different things from the industry perspective. So you don't have to put that wide angle lens on. So that's part of the education side of me speaking. The other part is, as several of you have alluded to, the counselors in the schools need to be made more aware. And that's something that we encourage the counselors who attend the educator externship to be thinking about, those students who might not be career bound, college bound. Going out and visiting different industries and seeing, like, Greg, you have a degree from Oregon State.
Nope.
No, you don't,
Nope.
but you're a Beaver.
Nope.
No, oh,
Nope.
well.
I'm a music school dropout.
Music school dropout.
Thinking about Jared's the one that was
Jared, okay, Jared has that. So they get to see all of those things, like everything from entry-level worker, how do you become that, all the way up to the Oregon State engineering program and the things that are available up there. And it's a kind of an eye-opening experience for a lot of people. So those are some things to think about for administrators, for sure. Be thinking about sending your educators, your counselors, your coaches, anyone who, avid teachers, any of those people that you think would be having career discussions with students, be thinking about sending them on the educator externship. And Miranda can help you with that, or I can help you as well. The other thing that comes up is, and it's kind of a follow-up to what Ryan was just talking about, that program is geared towards high school students. So what we've just done with Chemeketa Community College is write a registered career apprenticeship application packet that's gone into Boley for an entry-level worker. So this kind of goes to what you were talking about, Greg. How do we get those people? I would love to work with Plaza Community College and with Ryan to do something similar in this area. We have a Willamette Workforce Partnership working with us as well to provide some funding for that program, but it's a 10-week summer program. The first week, the student applicants, we call them interns, will get skilled up in different things. And then they'll have a 9-week paid internship starting at $15 an hour. It's sort of like a dating scenario. So if that employee intern doesn't work out, then we'll try to find you another one. They will be not only, if we don't get the registered pre-apprenticeship approved by then, they will still be able to go through 2 classes at Chemeketa. They'll have that paid internship. They'll get college credit for that, and they will be skilled up and ready to go the next step at the end of the summer, whether that's full-time employment, whether that's going into another registered apprenticeship. And we do need to work on more registered apprenticeships around the state. I know that, and we're trying to get that work done as well. So that's something that we've been working on. I know Daryl was on here. Daryl's still on here. Daryl's interested in Tillamook Bay. The packet that we have submitted and what we're doing with Chemeketa is really something that could be modeled anywhere. It's expensive for community colleges to start up a whole construction trades program of study, but this is something that it's an entry-level worker. It really doesn't take a whole lab of machinery or manufacturing or anything like that set up. So it's something that could be done without having a whole program of study set up if the administration at the community college will approve that program. The 2 college classes that Chemeketa is offering is APR 101 and Math for the Trades. So that's something for community colleges and the audience to think about. And then finally, for the teachers, how do we bring some of these lessons in to make learning relevant in our classroom? And the John Hickey from the Asphalt Pavement Association has worked with the Asphalt Pavement Association to build a whole unit of study, and it can be used with any CTE strand. It's geared towards pavement, obviously, and it's bidding, estimating, taking different roles as the project manager, the supervisor. They're figuring out how much the volume, the hourly wage, whether it's more cost efficient to pave a section of road all night or shut it down and get it done in 24 hours, or they have to look at all these different angles. There's a communications piece where they have to communicate with the neighborhoods. There's a marketing piece to get people interested in it. It could be used, I'm looking around Chris's establishment here, as a culinary program of study. You have a mentor like Chris, let's set up this whole event. Let's figure out how much it's going to cost to cater, how much is the food going to cost, how do we market it. So it could be used with any CTE strand, and all you have to do is just be able to adapt the template that we have and take it into your classroom. I'd be happy to talk with anyone about that as well. So those are some things that we have where we're trying to connect the dots between schools and employers and local community colleges and training centers. And if you come up with any ideas, we're open to ideas. We'd also like to help in any way we can. So any questions on any of those things?
I'd like to just touch on one thing you said. You were talking about the parent component and thinking, okay, college is
Gotta
still.
talk louder. Face the microphone.
They're talking about the parent component and how college is the only way. Going back to what Tony said earlier, we want those that are college bound in the construction industry. The other part of that is getting exposure to the construction industry and other industries that are like that may be the one catalyst that propels a student towards college, saying, hey, I really like that. I want to, but I don't want to be doing just the field work. I want to know the engineering behind it. I want to, do the estimating. I want to do the business side of it. Or the other side of it is they may think that they're headed for the construction trades and they get an opportunity to get around it and they think, no, I don't want that. I do want to go to college and get my business degree so I can, run a bank or whatever. This really can be that catalyst to propel students into a college career.
Yeah, and that's part of the thinking with the packet, the unit that Asphalt Pavement did. We have 6 teachers who have signed up. I should add that there's a potential for prize money at the end if your school provides a team and they want to do a presentation. And we have one that's an entry-level construction class doing the thing. We have another one that's an engineering class. So those two can't really compete with one another, but there are different sets of students who might end up in trades at some point. So we have lots of safeguards built into the program, so we don't have like Napa High School competing with Jesuit High School or something like that. So we're trying to look at the size of the school, the size of the team, to make it fair and equitable.
What do you guys do as far as evaluating and picking the teachers and stuff like that that you're bringing to be part of the externship program and things like that? I know that there's some of the teachers that show up for the externship program. I mean, I don't really understand why they're there some of the time, to be honest. It's I just curious about how that whole process works.
So we don't really have any requirements that we put on it. It's kind of up to the teachers to sign up, and it's also up to the administrators. So we just, last summer, we did the program in Southwest Washington, and they wanted their CTE teachers involved. So they put it out to them first, and they were only taking 10 or 12. So they chose who they wanted to participate. There is a stipend involved or hourly pay depending on your school district. And depending on funding, there's funding available through Gear Up if you have a Gear Up school, lots of ways to fund it, but there are no parameters on our end of it. We ask them to be interested and not just do it for the stipend. And our hope is that at the end of the week, they have a better knowledge and maybe they have learned something that they weren't expecting to learn anything.
Is there, you guys talked at all about putting some requirements on it? Because that last group that we had, the 2019, I mean, it felt like half of them were there for the stipend and really could care less about what we were doing or talking about. It was super frustrating.
Well, to be honest, we didn't want to limit it. We wanted the word to get out, but with this year, we aren't sure what the COVID numbers are going to be. You know, already Central Oregon is saying we can only do 12 because we don't want to have to shuffle them around to different, A/B groups and make sure the social distancing and all of that is in place. So I think that would be something that Rhonda and I could talk to each of the schools about who are interested and set some parameters and maybe do kind of a prioritization. We don't want to limit anyone though, because you never know when somebody might catch fire on it and say, oh, hey, I know that kid. He's just like Tony was in high school.
Have you guys thought about doing any student representation along with the teachers at the externship to where they could bring somebody or something like that also as a student representative instead of doing big field trips?
So we have talked about doing a student externship, but you start running into liability issues. Like if it's a part of a school class, we could do that. And of course, this is all pre-COVID, but the liability kind of becomes an issue sometimes, but we can definitely look at that's more of a work-based learning or an awareness exercise. But yeah, like I said, send me your ideas. We'll see how we can work around it. We also are hoping to do a legislator externship where we can take some state legislators around and show them the opportunities in construction and support industries. So if you have some local legislators that you would like to put on a roster, I'd be happy to start planning that.
All right. So any more questions or comments for Frosty and the work that she's doing?
One quickly, Denny, are you still on here? Do we have time? Unmute yourself.
I am here. Yeah.
Denny, you want to talk a little bit about what you're doing out of Claskenite?
Well, with all the mechanized equipment in the forestry industry, I've started kind of a heavy equipment portion that I've incorporated into the forestry program. So we got a little excavator. We have a sawmill on site. So I have a little area out in front of the sawmill where we can put it. We're currently building an equipment shed. It's new, but I know from my experience that if you can run a little machine, the controls are the same as on a big machine. And the kids really like it. It piques their interest. They want to do it. I've had some of them out there working with it already, and they're really into it. And I think it'll just keep them interested to where they can get into a career in construction or logging or any of those things. I mean, most any job site's going to have an excavator on it. So if they can get that experience, right now I'm looking into being an outreach OSHA trainer so I can get my kids through some OSHA training as well. That way, when they leave the school, they'll have some experience running the equipment and they'll be able to do it safely. Pretty much following OSHA protocols. So it's like I say, it's new and, you know, they're not cheap, any of them, even the little ones. So we're, it kind of goes hand in hand. Our maintenance, we have an engine repair. And so they're doing maintenance on the machine and we have a good area for it. We're fortunate. So I'm pretty positive that some kids are going to move on from this and get into the field. It's pretty broad. So hopeful anyway.
All right, so we have just a few minutes, and so I want to try to wrap this up and conclude and find some way to move this conversation forward. There was a lot discussed today. There's a lot going on in this area. There's a lot going on around the state. I think what I would like to do is find a smaller group that could convene and reassess the situation and find something to kind of move forward. And whether that's finding a better quality of teacher to participate in the externship program or more agency members in the internship program or a pre-apprenticeship program, whatever that might be. I want to make sure we don't lose momentum as these conversations happen. And so if you are interested in volunteering for that, email me. But I think I'll have to do some outreach. And Greg, I'll reach out to you in the area council and see if we can't get a couple contractors to participate in that conversation. And then Mary and Miranda and some of the Northwest ESD folks, I'll reach out to you as well and see if we can't get a few people that want to continue this conversation on and actually work towards implementing something or addressing something so that we can come back to this meeting in a year's time and maybe have a little bit different thing to report on or a little bit different style of meeting instead of just kind of an information dump and you know, here's what it is. So I'm really happy to see the engagement and the conversation and looking forward to kind of moving this thing forward. With that said, any other closing argument or closing comments? Greg, I don't know if you want to kind of send us off here. Or if anyone else from the audience online has any final thoughts on the conversation today or you know, how best to kind of move things forward.
Well, if nobody has any other comments, I'd just like to thank everybody for coming today, and whether in person or virtually. This is a really important part of our industry, really important part of education for our young people and providing opportunities for them. So like I said at the beginning, there's a lot of momentum already. It's been a little disrupted over the past 12 months, but we want to keep our eye on the ball, keep things moving forward, and really find a way to train up our replacements, because we're not all going to stay in this industry forever. I hope. So, but anyway, by all means, reach out to Aaron, reach out to Frosty, you know, myself, Jared, anything that we can do to help move this forward. Really interested in your idea of how we can get a smaller group to convene and carry forward some of these ideas, figure out which ones are a priority right now, which ones are maybe down the road. But thank you guys for everything you're doing from the association side. This is a big piece of what it takes to make this succeed. So thank you.
Great. Thanks, everyone.